Hello traders, John at StockBookie.com. Today we're looking at AMD on the daily, weekly, monthly time frames. We use technical analysis here at StockBookie.com. So let's get right into the daily AMD chart. And we always talked about this 20 MA here. We got above it, came back below, got above it, came back below, above, below, below, still below it. Barely though. Had a nice retrace today. Filled the gap down here right around the 1331 area. The low of the day was 1321. As the markets caught a bid, this one went up with the markets. If you look at here, if you go back on this is intraday, guys. Here was a gap fill right here, right at 1349. You had a low pivot as well, right around 1336. So that's more support. But if you go back a little bit further, you did have a gap fill right in this area. I can't zoom. I can, but right around 1331 or so. And then, of course, you had the low pivot here and the 750 retrace, which it barely made it today. This was the low on the day right there. So you still had some support coming up on the charts. Gap fill, the 31 area you had there. You had the double bottom down in this area, and then boom, we caught a bid with the markets. Went right into this high pivot there, which is going to be some resistance. Pulled back, slightly bearish now, back above the 20 and the 50. So, no problems with AMD. Other than, every time it goes to this upper trend line, guys, it is pulling back. Let's go to the 60-minute really quick. This is another time frame we follow. This is that big, long trend line that is trying to get above, comes right back in. Even on the 60, we're still below the MAs. AMD needs to get above these moving averages on all time frames before this thing goes higher. Look for a gap up possibly over this resistance, and then maybe a gap and go possibly up into these areas as well. But let's go back to the daily really quick. There was that big trend line, just can't get above it. Now we're back below it again. Today was a pretty good run up for the low from the lows in this gap fill. Have to respect it, but we're still below the 20, still kind of setting up in a slightly bearish pattern. But overall, it's bullish. You're still above the 50 and the 200, but slightly bearish. A little bit of an inside bar chopping around, slopping. And until it gets above this area, maybe the 1467, and then of course the 1555 area. Let's see what it does. It's really no pattern at this point, just going up and down into this trend line. Big first point, get above the trend line. Second point, get above the 1467. Third, fill the gap, then shoot for the 1555. I still have an area up here around 1622. That's going to be your next area of resistance. If you are a bear on this one, you need to stay below the 20 MA, chop around. I'd like to see us chop around under here, then come right into this trend line, and then the 50 and the 50 or the 20 MA pushes down on price, and then we start to go lower. If this starts setting up sideways here, I'd expect lower prices, like I've been saying, $10, and then possibly $8.71. So if this thing really starts giving it up and the markets start coming in, I'm still thinking down here, guys. I'm sorry. You got the gap fill down here right at 1039. You have a big window here, and it's got a lot of resistance up in here. And if it can't start popping through, it's going to take the path of least resistance and possibly go head down. And the other reason I'm thinking that too, let's go to the weekly. After a big move like this, guys, you gotta have some sort of a pullback. That's just the way it is. And even looking at the bigger time frames, you have good support at 1165, but ultimately you have this big area right here where it retraced and then pivot high, pivot up into the into the 52-week highs up in here. Again, 1622 could be a reality. I still think we need a pullback before we start going again. And I'm thinking that pullback is going to take us to the $10 area. So just be careful, longs. That's all I'm saying. I don't care if you're short, long. I just want to put my guys, my followers in the right position. And right now, this is just chopping around, doing nothing, really not creating any patterns. We did have a head and shoulder possibly here. This right shoulder is a little bit long, and I still like an upsloping trend line on my head and shoulder patterns. This one's okay. I don't like that it went through price right there, but we'll take it for what it is. You still have support down here, just waiting on pattern. Now, if it drops into this area and then goes sideways, that's another possibility for this chart. Again, if you're bullish, you need to get above the line, above the 1475 area, and shoot for the 1555. If you're bearish, you need to get below the 50 MA, this little pivot here around the 1239. Then I think you're coming down here to fill the gap around 1038. and then ultimately around 10 bucks or so. And if it really starts going, you're looking at the 200 MA, wherever that might be. 871 it is right now. By the time it comes down, it might be at 950, who knows? So keep an eye on that. Again, this is AMD, guys. If you like what you see, go to my website, sign up for the free membership. You get videos like this. You get live streaming action. Come to the stream, bring a symbol. We go over the chart and possibly see which way these things are going. And these lines, guys, all here, these were old gap fills, all pivot points, stuff like that. You know, you could take them all out, but right now I'm going to keep them in. Again, holding support. Let's look for a pattern. Let's see which way this thing can go. All right, thanks again for watching. God bless. See you on the charts.